Thank you so much. And I'm going to say the good evening here in Israel, good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining. To me, as an Israeli sitting inside Tel Aviv right now, it's enormously supportive to know that you're listening in and continuing to being engaged. That's not something that I take for granted at all. So here we are. It is December 20th. We're on, and I say this with all of the challenges, we're on day number 75, and I don't even know how to understand that. Because in Israel, in our 75 years of existence, we've had a war that was a year and a half. That's the War of Independence. It was very different. But since then, in the wars that the state of Israel has engaged as a sovereign state, mainly against other countries, other states, if it was Egypt or Jordan or Syria, or for that matter, Lebanon. And yes, Yemen has sent troops against Israel in the past, as has Morocco, and I'll get to Yemen soon. The 75 days, for me, are part of the changes of how we look at this war. What do I want to do right now in that sense? I want to be able, as much as possible, to give you an idea of what we're looking towards, as opposed to giving you a history of the last 75 days. Hamas started a war. I want to be clear. They started a war on purpose. They did not do a terror attack. They certainly did not do a suicide terror attack. They planned for a very long time a combined attack that had different stages and were in a stage where they thought that they would be doing way better. In what way do I mean? After the scorched ground, the horrific events of October 7th, they did not do that as a suicide squad. And I use these words not lightly. They did this as a combined attack to enter into Israel's northwest Negev, into those many communities that you all support, to murder, to kill, to torture, and to take mass hostages. When they did so, they view the hostages, and my heart goes out. I'm going to be very specific in that way, because Hamas views them as a bargaining chip. Hamas uses them in a variety of ways. Hamas, in that sense, sees the hostages as their Hamas defense. That is how they see themselves being defended against the Israeli Defense Forces, and in that sense, being used by the entire world. So where are we at this stage? Israel did not just respond to Hamas. We officially declared war. We have been at war from October 7th. And in that war, Israel put two different aims, and they're equal objectives. I need every hostage to come back, and I need to destroy Hamas. I need to destroy Hamas, and I need every hostage to come back. You all understand, because you are supporters and understanders and involved, that this is not an easy, simple task. Do we stop everything, bring back the hostages, and then Hamas is not destroyed? Do we stop everything, bring back the hostages, and then destroy Hamas? There's another side to that equation. It's called Hamas. Hamas, until now, see the hostages as a bargaining chip. They've never given out any kind of information about the entire list. They do it in such a way to torture us. Can I use a different word? They do it in such a way to terrorize us. They are a genocidal terror organization. I don't believe them. I've lived my entire adult life looking at both terror organizations, states, countries. There's a whole complexity that goes into it. But I challenge us all right now, because the stage that Israel is in trying to both, and this is not easy, put that kind of pressure and continue to destroy those portions of Hamas that we can without hurting the hostages. And we all understand how complex this is. I don't like the word complex anymore, but how heartbreaking it is. And we all want the hostages to be back right now, and we all want the state of Israel to continue to exist. Both those who have hostages who are there, who want everything to stop, and I understand that, and those of us who right now want both to happen, and none of it is going to be pretty. Where does that put us right now? Over the last few days, there's been more dialogue about the idea that there will be an additional, what the term is humanitarian pause. The entire world will call it a ceasefire. Israel will call it a humanitarian pause. Why does it matter? Because in this sense, just like the humanitarian pause of the last time that brought out 100 hostages, which is not enough, but we are dealing with the terror organization called Hamas. This isn't about you get to do everything the way you want. And the only reason then they let out 100 people is because of that combined impact of both their feeling, the military crunch. They are, in their own way, in defense, but they brought the hostages to be their ultimate defense. And that makes it such a complicated situation. So when I look around right now, the developments that have happened since, as I look into the future, is that I do expect there to be an additional pause. Pause, not ceasefire. Pause. In that pause, I will look and see hostages come home. There will be hostages that will come home in such a pause. But can I promise me, Israel, me, Miri, that all of them will come back? The other side is called Hamas, the genocidal terror organization. The other side listens to me, Miri, and to all Israelis saying, we're out to destroy Hamas. They want to use the hostages as their defense. Are there other ways about it? I think that Israel is exploring every way possible. There's never going to be a way that all of us are going to be happy about. If we stop everything, bring them all back, we don't really know who they're going to bring back. When we bring them back, we don't know how that's going to happen. I give it because I feel that we all build up expectations and hopes, and this is a heartbreaking, harsh war. The war is not contained just to the Gaza Strip. Over the last, here we are, week number 11, day number 75, inconceivable inside Israeli ideas. There has been a consistent war up north. Don't call it anything else. Call it a war of attrition. And again, for people who are involved in Jewish National Fund, and we're so involved in the reconstruction of the communities themselves, of the physical aspects of the Northern Negev, oh my God, they need that. But please remember, there are dozens of communities up north who have not been in their communities, not in their kibbutzim, not in their moshavim, not in the city of Kiryat Shmona, not in the city of Shlomi, who have not been there almost for the same, in that sense, 10 weeks. It was a little bit gradual there. They were evacuated, so you didn't have, and that is so important, the horrific deaths of down south, but those people are just as dislocated. They moved away. They moved away quickly. They can't go to their homes to take things. The homes themselves in Kibbutz Yiftach or in the town of Metula, in the city of Kiryat Shmona or in the city of Shlomi are being fired at, anti-tank weapons at. Hezbollah has created de facto a kind of, and I'm very wary of the term that I'm about to use, but they have created almost what I would call a buffer zone into Israel, where the Israeli citizens who were living inside their towns, villages, communities, kibbutzim, moshavim, communities, etc., cannot live inside their places, cannot farm, cannot go to their agricultural areas, cannot go to their factories that are next to the border. They're inside Israel. In its own way, similar yet so not similar to down south. The Israeli Chief of Staff visited up north today. When he spoke up north just in the last few hours, the Israeli Chief of Staff said, we can't go back to the situation up north as what we had before. And I'm giving you a glimpse into the future. We Israel, we the Israeli Defense Forces are trying to systematically target and take apart Hamas's military capabilities in the Gaza Strip. We are trying to bring back the hostages. That means that there's some kind of negotiations going on, because at the end, both the outer people of Hamas, not the ones from inside the Gaza Strip, are all kind of convening in towards Egypt over the last few days. That means that something's going on. I'm looking at it from the Arab side, not necessarily from the Israeli side. And by the way, if there's no negotiations going on, and they are all talking about, and there is, but they're all talking about the fact that Ismail Haniyeh and other figures are convening into Egypt, that means that Hamas is under pressure, that they need to go to the Egyptians, that they need to get out both from Qatar and from Turkey and to convene on and in and to show their own strength. I know this is anything happy about this, but it does mean that they're under pressure. That's important. They need to feel that they're under pressure. They not only did a genocidal terror attack, they hold our hostages. You have to pressure them. That's part of what you need to do for us as Israel to be able to continue to be here and to bring them home. Why did I connect it also to Hezbollah on the northern front? Because we're in for a long war. At this stage along the way, in the ground operation combined with the air operation inside the Gaza Strip, as all of you know, and this isn't about the exact number, it's about the big number. A large amount of, and I'm going to say, civilians and Hamas terrorists have been killed inside the Gaza Strip. And I put them in both. There are civilians there. They may be supporters of Hamas or not, but they're civilians. They're not necessarily the active fighters. And that number in itself is having an impact, certainly on public opinion, not as much on governments as you would think, listening to the rhetoric of governments around, the support of the United States, and I'll do this here for the JNF crowd, and I say it from my guts, okay? Essentially, what everybody wants in governments is that Israel should crush Hamas, and can we please not kill so many civilians? And I have to tell you, I wish we could. If you have an idea of how, bring it out there. We all need to crush Hamas, and we all need for ourselves to try, for us, for our own moral level, to try as much as possible. We never target civilians, and then you go, we don't. 3 men killed, hostages, how horrible. They're inside a war zone. We have this tendency to look at this as if it's like, walking down Fifth Avenue. It's not. They're in a war zone. So when I look at this greater aspect of the international pressure, when it comes to that and our need to both crush Hamas inside the Gaza Strip and bring back the hostages, the pressure that we're putting into there and what's going around, I think that there will be a pause soon, and I think that that will be a humanitarian pause, and I'm very hopeful that then they'll bring back hostages. I can't say all of them, but the war is not going to be over. That war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip is going to continue. It may not be at the high intensity that it is right now. It'll be low intensity. Should I give you the examples of what low intensity means? Low intensity is that we're in the Gaza Strip, in all of the areas that we've already kind of taken and slowly destroying that Hamas infrastructure. And then from those areas, we continue to act, but slowly, systematically, not full power as we've been doing now in the Gaza Strip, but more similar to some of the military operations that are taking place under this war inside Judea and Samaria, into the city of Jenin, into the city of Tulkarem, into different areas. It's going to go on. I need you to understand that. I need us to breathe in deep. Now breathe in deeper. Did you hear what I said before about the chief of staff? There is an issue that needs to be addressed. So I'll say what I said again about if you have an idea of how we can crush Hamas and not kill civilians, bring it out. Now's the time. It was 2 months ago. I say this every time, and I don't mean it cynically. I don't know of a different way to do it. I don't know of anybody who knows of a different way to do it without letting Hamas win. Do you have an idea of how you make Hezbollah, who has 10 times the capabilities, 10 times the manpower, 10 times the amount of rockets? That's like 15,000 rockets that Hamas has, 150,000 that Hezbollah has. Inside the country called Lebanon, how you make them move the ground force that they built, that has been training for years to do the kind of attack that the Hamas ground force did on October 7th? Would you want to move back up north before you know that they're nowhere near the border? Who do you trust to be the one that makes sure that they're really not near the border? That the people who live up there inside those communities are not suddenly next to the same kind of threat of what happened on October 7th. We're in for a long war, and I say that after 75 days of war, and I need to broaden it even a bit more. It's called me glasses. Just make sure I still have a few more minutes, and I'm going to broaden it even more. Because when I say Hezbollah, I go to Iran. When I say Iran, because Hezbollah is both Lebanese, Arabic Shiites who live in Lebanon, and they established themselves inspired by the Iranian Revolution as Lebanese Arabic-speaking Shiites. They are also very much a proxy, a disciple of both the exporting of the Iranian Revolution itself, but they are by far, and I'm being cynical, but it's me who talks about these things, they are the Iranian success story. Look at what happens when you fund, when you train, when you arm. Look at how much strength they have. Look how Hezbollah inside Lebanon, as a local Lebanese enormous force, has at the end a type of deterrence with Israel. I said it already before, and I say it again, that Hezbollah to a certain degree has created in the last 7 weeks, 10 weeks, almost 11 weeks, a buffer zone into Israel. Again, you know these places: Manara Mizgav'am, Iftach Malkia, Avivim Kiryat Shmone, Metula. Can I keep on going down the list? People don't live there. That Hezbollah created into Israel. And I said behind Hezbollah, Iran, and Iran does not want Hezbollah to use that full force that they have equipped them with. They don't want to, because that enormous Hezbollah capability is to make sure that if anybody thinks that they're going to go after Iran, a nuclear Iran, any kind of capabilities of Iran, the response will be from Hezbollah in Lebanon. So what have the Iranians let out into the world? And in this case, I really feel that they let the genie out of the bottle, and I say it as if funny, and that's called the Houthis in Yemen. Who has not heard in the last few weeks of the Houthis in Yemen? The Houthis are Shiites, like the Hezbollah, like the Iranian revolutionary regime. The Houthis are Yemenite and speak Yemen, just like the Hezbollah are Lebanese and speak Arabic, and Iran, they speak Persian. I say that because they're not the same. But the Houthis have been trained, remember, armed, trained, inspired by the Iranian Revolution. And there's no question whatsoever that Iran said, okay, Houthis, get going, get things on there. And they started to attack. And it's never funny, but it's going to impact you in the United States. It's going to impact all of Europe. And the United States has put together a task force, which is a task force to take care against the Houthis who are in Yemen. Go look at a map after this briefing. The arena where the Houthis are, where Yemen is, has always been a geopolitical strategic place. For those who are Jews within the audience in this one, because I don't know if you're Jews or non-Jews, that's where the Queen of Sheba was kind of from, okay, to a certain degree. It's a rich land. It's a pivotal kind of place, and it's the main, I think that the number is like 15% of world shipping goes next to them. And they've been attacking the international shipping route. They say that it's everything that's coming to Israel. It's not. They say that it's because it's either Israeli owned, maybe soon they're going to say Jewish owned. We could talk about, it's not. They're attacking everything. And the international community, specifically under the United States, has reenacted a task force that already existed. The US, the British, the French, and slowly additional countries are actively now trying to both preempt against the Houthi attacks against the shipping. But what we don't talk about is how this is going to impact Egypt to our south. Egypt's income is from the Suez Canal. If the ships don't go through the Suez Canal, they don't pay Egypt. Guess what? Egypt doesn't have an income. That's our big neighbor to the south, 110 million people that border the Gaza Strip. I give you that because there is no local event here. Hamas is local and not local. Hamas, in that sense, hand in hand, both, as I said, Hamas called them out. Hezbollah is participating. Hezbollah goes to Iran. Iran goes down to Yemen. Yemen stops the shipping. It hits Egypt. Egypt is the back entrance into the Gaza Strip. So what am I looking at? I don't know how to give it dates, but to me, it's clear that the war is going to continue a long time. The high intensity will probably be for another few weeks, and then it's going to continue at low intensity, but it's going to be a war. It's not going to not be a war. And it's going to be both down south and this continuation with Hezbollah. And I don't know to tell you what will develop there, but the added aspect now is that what happens against the Houthis in Yemen is something that is going to also impact us all. So every time I talk, I always say, at least in Israel, right, even though this is a glass of water, right, it's a good time. I mean, here it's already evening, to like drink that good scotch, good whiskey, because we need to breathe in deep, maybe get some good Israeli red wine, okay? We need to have resilience. We need to be in long term. We need to take care of Israelis who have lost their communities where they live. And it's not for a short time, not just the rebuilding of the communities down south, the re-establishment or re-inhabiting of the communities up north that are still being targeted. There's a lot of damage going up north inside those communities as we talk. And breathing in deep, it's going to take a while. So yet again, I get to be the prophetess of doom. And I greatly appreciate your listening, even though happy it does not make us. And at this stage along the way, I'll hand back over to Gary. Thank you all very, very much.